Hey guys, tonight we slip into the dusty streets of Jerusalem, 605 BC, where the air hums with dread. Babylonian soldiers, their bronze armor glinting under a merciless sun, swarm the city like ants on a fallen fruit. You're there, a teenager maybe, heart pounding as you dodge spear tips and crumbling walls. Shouts echo Hebrew, Akkadian, panic. The temple, God's house, looms ahead, its golden splendor about to be looted among the chaos. A young man named Daniel stands firm, his eyes sharp, not with fear, but with something fiercer trust in God. This is his story, one of peaceful defiance amid lions and kings, a tale to lull you into calm. Look, you probably won't survive a Babylonian siege, but Daniel, he's about to thrive in exile. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Relax, let the world fade, and focus on the journey ahead. Now, dim the lights, close your eyes, and imagine. And let's begin today's journey together. You're dragging your feet through Jerusalem's rubble, dust coating your sandals. The Babylonians have won, and Nebuchadnezzar, the king with a name like a tongue twister, demands the best of Judah's youth as trophies. Daniel, barely out of his teens, is among them noble, clever, and, frankly, a bit of a nerd for God's law. You see him, hands bound, marched across deserts to Babylon, a city of dizzying ziggurats and gardens that defy gravity. It's overwhelming, like stepping into a sci-fi movie with better architecture. Yet Daniel's not fazed. His faith in God is like a Wi-Fi signal that never drops. Even in this pagan hotspot, Babylon's a sensory overload. Markets buzz with traders hawking spices, silks, and weirdly specific amulets. One guy swears his charm wards off demon-induced hiccups. Temples to Marduk and Ishtar dwarf everything, their priests chanting in eerie unison. You're gawking, but Daniel's laser-focused. He's hauled before court officials who size him up like he's auditioning for Babylonian Idol. They rename him Belteshazzar, a clunky nod to a local god. You'd roll your eyes, new name, new rules, new life. But Daniel, he's not here to blend in. He's got a quiet rebellion brewing, one that'll make kings sweat. Here's the strange event. The Babylonians cherry-pick Judah's elite, not to kill, but to brainwash. They want Daniel and his friends Hananiah, Mishael, Azariah to forget God and worship idols. It's cultural erasure, slow and slick, like reformatting a hard drive. You watch Daniel resist, not with swords, but with stubborn faith. Scholars still argue whether he was a historical figure or a legendary symbol of resistance. Either way, his story's grip is undeniable. Now, a quirky tidbit: Babylonian education for captives included astrology, which Daniel likely aced, though he probably side-eyed the star worship bits. Imagine him muttering, "Nice horoscope." But God's got the real plan. You're starting to see it, his calm, his trust. It's not loud, but it's unshakable, like a candle that won't flicker in a storm. As you trudge beside him into Babylon's heart, you feel it too, a strange peace, even as empires clash. The march ends at the palace, a sprawling maze of glazed tiles and incense. You're exhausted, but Daniel's already scanning the room, sizing up his new world. Nebuchadnezzar's court is a circus advisor's bicker, magicians mumble spells, and someone's pet peacock keeps squawking. You'd laugh, but the stakes are high. Daniel's about to face his first test, a royal menu that breaks every rule he lives by. You lean in, curious. How's a kid from Jerusalem going to outsmart an empire? Let's find out. You're standing in a Babylonian dining hall, the air thick with the scent of roasted lamb and spiced wine. Long tables groan under platters of meats, fruits, and breads, all glistening under torchlight. It's a feast fit for royalty. But you're not here to eat, you're watching Daniel, a young exile, face his first big test. He's surrounded by other captives, some already digging in, their resolve crumbling faster than a stale biscuit. But Daniel, he's got that quiet fire in his eyes, the kind that says he's not bowing to anyone but God. You're curious, maybe a bit nervous for him. This is about more than food. It's about who he'll become in this glittering, godless city. The Babylonian officials, draped in robes that scream, "I'm important," are pushing the king's menu on the captives. It's not just lunch, it's a loyalty test. The food's been offered to idols, maybe Marduk or Ishtar, and eating it means nodding along to Babylon's gods. You wince tough call for a kid raised on God's laws. Daniel, though, steps forward, polite but firm, and says no. You're impressed, maybe a bit shocked. He's not yelling or starting a riot, he's just not eating. It's the chillest rebellion you've ever seen. Here's the strange event. Daniel and his three friends, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, request a vegetarian diet, swapping royal delicacies for pulses and water. Pulses, by the way, are lentils and beans, the kind of stuff you'd find in a hipster's smoothie bowl today. The official in charge, a guy named Ashpenaz, nearly chokes. You can almost hear him think, "These kids are gonna starve, and I'll lose my head." But Daniel's got a plan, a 10-day trial to prove God's way works. You're rooting for him, but you're also wondering if he's nuts. Beans versus Babylonian BBQ bold move. A quirky tidbit, Babylonian cuisine often included pork, which was a hard no for Jews. But they also loved garlic so much, they'd rub it on everything bread. Meat, probably their sandals. You imagine Daniel politely dodging garlic-slathered idol meat, his nose wrinkling. Scholars still argue whether his diet choice was purely religious or a savvy health flex. Either way, it's a power move that screams faith over fear. You're there as the trial kicks off. The other captives are scarfing down rich stews, their cheeks flushed with wine, while Daniel and his crew munch on lentils like it's no big deal. You're skeptical. Can they really outshine the others on this? The hall buzzes with whispers. Some captives mock them, calling them bean boys behind their backs. You'd laugh. But there's something about Daniel's calm that shuts you up. He's not preachy, just steady, like a guy who knows the ending before the story starts. 10 days later, you're back in the hall, and Ashpenaz is inspecting the captives like they're livestock at a fair. The others look fine, maybe a bit sluggish from all the wine. Then he gets to Daniel and his friends. You lean in, eyes wide. Their glowing clear skin, sharp eyes, like they've been sneaking superfoods from the future. Ashpenaz blinks, stunned. You're half expecting him to demand their recipe. The verdict's clear. God's diet wins. Daniel's team gets the green light to keep their ways. No idol-tainted food required. You're walking out of the hall now, trailing Daniel as he heads to his quarters. The city's alive, outside merchants haggling, priests chanting, a stray goat causing traffic. You're starting to get it. Daniel's not just surviving, he's setting the tone for everything to come. His trust in God isn't loud, but it's like a low hum that drowns out Babylon's noise. You're wondering what's next. How does a kid this stubborn handle a king's wild dreams? You're about to find out. You're in Babylon's royal palace, a maze of blue-glazed tiles and flickering oil lamps. The air's heavy with incense, and you're trailing Daniel. Now, a young man with a knack for staying cool under pressure. You're not here for a feast. This time, King Nebuchadnezzar's got a problem, and it's a big one. He's pacing his throne room, his gold-trimmed robe swishing, looking like a guy who's just lost his car keys, but, you know, way more regal. His face is stormy, and you're picking up the vibe something's gone sideways in dreamland. Daniel's about to step into the spotlight, and you're here for the show. The king's had a dream vivid, unsettling, the kind that makes you check under the bed. Problem is, he can't remember it. Worse, he's demanded his magicians, astrologers, and so-called wise men not just interpret the dream, but tell him what it was. You're standing among the court, trying not to snicker. It's like asking someone to guess your password after you've forgotten it. The advisors are sweating, muttering spells, and tossing star charts like they're playing cosmic Uno. Spoiler, they're stumped. Nebuchadnezzar's not amused. He's threatening to turn them all into kebabs if they don't deliver. Here's the strange event. Daniel, barely out of his teens, steps up when God reveals the king's dream to him in a vision. You're watching him, this exile kid, walk into a room full of panicking experts and calmly offer to solve the unsolvable. It's not just guts, it's faith on steroids. He prays with his friends first, asking God for the answer, and boom, divine download. You're half expecting a PowerPoint presentation from heaven. But it's just Daniel, trusting God's got his back. A quirky tidbit Babylonian dream. Interpreters often used dream books, like ancient cheat sheets, to fake their way through royal nightmares. You imagine one guy flipping through his scroll, muttering, giant statue, bad vibes, maybe eat less garlic Daniel. Though, skips the props. Scholars still argue whether his vision was a one-off miracle or proof he had a direct line to God either way. It's a flex that shuts the court up fast. You're there as Daniel approaches the throne. The room's tense. You can practically hear the advisor's teeth chattering. Nebuchadnezzar glares, his patience thinner than a papyrus sheet. Daniel's voice is steady, not cocky. As he starts, no wise man or magician can do this. But there's a God in heaven who reveals mysteries. You're nodding smooth opener. Then he lays out the dream, a colossal statue with a gold head, silver chest, bronze belly, iron legs, and feet of iron mixed with clay. You're visualizing it, half awed, half wondering who'd commissioned such a tacky sculpture. Daniel doesn't stop there. He explains the statue's meaning. It's a timeline of empires, starting with Babylon gold. Nice ego boost for the king. Each metal's a kingdom to come, weaker as you go down, until a divine stone smashes it all, signaling God's eternal kingdom. You're impressed. Daniel's not just decoding, he's preaching without preaching. The king's jaw drops, and you're pretty sure he's forgotten his death threats. The advisors, they're sulking, probably jealous they didn't think of divine stone first. You're walking out with Daniel now, the throne room buzzing behind you. Nebuchadnezzar's just promoted him to chief advisor, tossing in some fancy robes and a title that sounds like governor of brainiacs. You're grinning, remember those lentils from the dining hall, same vibe. Daniel's trust in God keeps winning, quiet but unstoppable. Outside, Babylon's night sky sparkles, and you're wondering how he'll handle the next royal curveball. Spoiler, it involves a furnace and some very stubborn friends. You're standing in a vast Babylonian plain, the sun blazing like it's trying to set a personal record. Before you looms a golden statue, 90 feet tall, so shiny, it's practically screaming, "Worship me, Nebuchadnezzar's gone all in," turning his dream's gold head into a full-on idol. The crowd's massive nobles, officials, and random locals, all sweating in their best robes. You're elbow to elbow with them, catching whiffs of myrrh and nervous anticipation. Trumpets blare, and everyone's supposed to bow when the music hits. Everyone, that is, except three guys you recognize, Daniel's friends: Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, better known as Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. You're here to see what happens when faith meets a furnace. The music starts flutes, lyres, and some instrument that sounds like a cat in a blender. The crowd drops like dominoes, faces in the dirt, worshiping the statue. But Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they're standing tall, hands at their sides, looking like they missed the memo. You're tense, glancing at the guards who've definitely noticed. Nebuchadnezzar's on his throne, his face twisting from smug to furious. You're thinking, guys, maybe just a quick kneel. But these three are as stubborn as Daniel. Their trust in God like a shield you can't see but totally feel. Here's the strange event. The king drags them before him, offering a second chance to bow or face a fiery furnace. They refuse, calmly telling him God can save them. But even if he doesn't, they're not worshiping his shiny toy. You're floored. It's not just defiance, it's peace in the face of a literal death sentence. The furnace is roaring nearby, so hot you're sweating from 50 yards away. Nebuchadnezzar's practically frothing, ordering it heated 7 times hotter. You're wondering if he's got a thermostat guy on speed dial. A quirky tidbit: Babylonian furnaces were likely used for smelting, not executions. So this was a bizarre flex. Imagine death by industrial oven. You picture the king's advisors whispering, sir, maybe a guillotine instead. Scholars still argue whether the 7 times hotter bit was literal or just poetic hype. Either way, it's overkill. You're watching the guards tie up the 3 friends, their ropes smelling like a BBQ gone wrong. The heat's so intense the guards drop dead just tossing them in. You're holding your breath, heart racing. Then, something wild happens. You squint into the furnace's glow, and Nebuchadnezzar leaps up, shouting, "Wait, I see 4 men in there, unbound, walking around." You're craning your neck, half expecting a mirage. But the king's not drunk. There's a 4th figure, glowing, maybe an angel, or God himself. You're getting chills, and not from the desert breeze. The 3 walk out, untouched, no burns, no smoky smell, not even a singed eyebrow. You're grinning like you just saw the ultimate magic trick. But it's no trick. It's God showing up. The crowd's buzzing, and Nebuchadnezzar's having a moment. He's praising God, promoting the trio, and probably rethinking his interior decorator's statue obsession. You're walking away with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. They're calm, radiating like a cool mist. You're starting to get it. It remembered Daniel's lentil diet, his dream decoding. This is the same vibe: trust in God that laughs at impossible odds. The plane's emptying out, but you're replaying that 4th figure in your head. What's next for these guys? You're betting it involves another king losing his cool. You're back in Babylon's opulent palace, the air thick with cedar and ambition. Nebuchadnezzar's throne room glitters, but the vibe's uneasy. Like someone left the oven on too long, maybe a callback to that furnace fiasco. You're watching Daniel, now a trusted advisor, navigate the court's snake pit of flattery and intrigue. The king's been riding high, his empire sprawling like a peacock's tail. But there's a crack in his swagger. He's had another dream, and this one's got him rattled. You're close enough to see the sweat on his brow, his fingers drumming on the throne. Daniel's about to deliver a message that'll make the room go quiet, and you're here for every word. The dream's a doozy, a massive tree, branches scraping the sky, fruit for all, shade for beasts. Then a holy watcher and angel basically shows up, shouting, "Chop it down, leave the stump, let it live like an animal for 7 years." You're picturing it, half awed, half confused, like a nature documentary gone rogue. Nebuchadnezzar's magicians are useless again, probably hiding behind their star charts. Daniel steps in, his face calm, but his eyes heavy. You're sensing he knows this one's not just a puzzle, it's a warning. And it's personal. Here's the strange event. Daniel interprets the dream as God's judgment on Nebuchadnezzar himself. The tree's the king, his empire lush but bloated with pride. God's about to humble him, make him live like a beast eating grass, soaked by dew. Mind unraveling for 7 years, you're stunned. Daniel's not sugarcoating it. He's telling the most powerful man alive, you're about to lose it all. Buddy, his voice is steady, urging the king to repent. Show mercy, maybe dodge the axe. You're thinking, bold move, Daniel. But is this guy even listening? A quirky tidbit. Babylonians believed dreams were divine memos, but they also thought eating certain foods like leeks could ward off bad ones. You imagine Nebuchadnezzar munching leeks like a nervous tick, hoping to skip this prophecy. Scholars still argue whether 7 years was literal or symbolic. Some say it was months, others a poetic slap. Either way, you're watching the king brush Daniel off, his ego too big for warnings. You're cringing, knowing pride's a lousy shield. You're there as time passes, maybe a year, and Nebuchadnezzar's on his palace roof, gloating over Babylon's skyline, ziggurats, gardens, the works. He's boasting, "Look what I built." You're rolling your eyes, half expecting a thunderclap. Sure enough, a voice from heaven echoes, repeating the dream's curse. You're frozen as the king's face changes, eyes wild, hands trembling. He drops to all fours, crawling off like a man possessed. You're following, heart pounding, as he stumbles into the fields, his royal robes swapped for mud and madness. The court's in chaos, behind you advisors panicking, servants whispering. You're out in the grasslands now, watching Nebuchadnezzar graze like a cow, his hair matted, nails like claws. It's bizarre, humbling, and a little sad. You're remembering the furnace, how God showed up for Daniel's friends. This feels different, not fire, but a slow unraveling. God's way of teaching a king who's boss. You're wondering if he'll ever snap out of it, or if Daniel's warning was just a whisper in the wind. The stars are out, and you're settling in to see what happens next. Oh. You're in a Babylonian banquet hall, years after Nebuchadnezzar's grassy meltdown. And the vibe's decadent but shaky. The new king, Belshazzar, is throwing a party that makes a Vegas casino look tame. Golden goblets looted from Jerusalem's temple glint in the torchlight, filled with wine that's flowing faster than the Euphrates. You're weaving through nobles, their laughter loud, their robes reeking of perfume and arrogance. Belshazzar's at the head, toasting to his gods. But you're catching a nervous edge in his smirk. Something's about to go down. And Daniel, now older, wiser, is about to step into a scene straight out of a divine horror flick. The party's peaking lyres strum, dancers swirl, and someone's pet monkey is stealing olives. Then, out of nowhere, a ghostly hand appears, floating near the wall, writing words in glowing script. You're staring, wine sloshing in your cup. As the crowd freezes, Belshazzar's face goes pale, his knees knocking like a bad cartoon. You're half expecting him to bolt, but he's glued to his throne, babbling for his wise men. They show up, muttering about omens, but they're as clueless as a tourist without a map. You're thinking, here we go again? Time for Daniel. Here's the strange event. A disembodied hand writes a cryptic message, Mene, Mene, Tekel, Parson on the palace wall, and Daniel's called to decode it. You're watching him enter, his graying hair catching the light, his calm a stark contrast to the chaos. The Queen Mother, probably the only sober one here, recommends him, praising his track record with Nebuchadnezzar's dreams. Daniel's not impressed by the king's promises of purple robes or gold chains. He's here for God's truth, not party favors. You're leaning in, feeling the weight of what's coming. A quirky tidbit: Babylonian banquets often featured sacred vessels for show, but using Jerusalem's temple cups was a bold flex, like stealing a church's chalice for shots. You imagine Daniel side-eyeing the blasphemy, his patience thinner than a reed. Scholars still argue whether the handwriting was Aramaic or a divine code only Daniel could crack. Either way, it's a mic drop moment from God. You're watching Belshazzar beg for answers, his voice cracking, while Daniel steps to the wall, unfazed. He reads the words like a cosmic report card. Many gods numbered your kingdom's days. Tekel, you're weighed and found wanting. Parson, your empire's split between Medes and Persians. You're chilled, picturing scales tipping, kingdoms crumbling. Belshazzar's stunned, his guests silent, the monkey long gone. Daniel's not gloating, he's just stating facts, his trust in God as steady as ever. You're remembering the furnace, the tree, all those times God showed up. This feels bigger a dynasty's end. Written in light, you're slipping out as the party dies, the air heavy with dread. Belshazzar tosses Daniel some rewards, but you're betting he's not sleeping tonight. Outside, Babylon's quiet, the stars cold and sharp. Word-spreading Persian armies are close, their campfires dotting the horizon. You're walking with Daniel, his steps slow but sure, and you're wondering how he stays so calm when empires fall. The night's wrapping around you, and you're ready for the next chapter, sensing a new king and a new test on the way. You're in Babylon's streets. Now, under a new flag, Darius the Mede has taken the throne, and the city's buzzing with change. The air smells of dust and fresh paint as Persian banners replace Babylonian ones. You're weaving through markets where traders haggle over pomegranates and whisper about the new regime. Daniel, older now, his face lined, but his eyes still sharp, is navigating this shift like a pro. He's not just surviving, he's thriving. Appointed as a top governor in Darius' reshuffled empire, you're impressed, but you're also sensing trouble brewing. Jealousy's a nasty beast, and Daniel's success is making enemies. Darius is a practical guy, less flashy than Belshazzar, with a knack for organization. He's split the empire into 120 satrapies, each run by a governor, and Daniel's one of 3 overseers keeping them in check. You're picturing him as the ultimate middle manager, except his boss is God, not a spreadsheet. His work's flawless, honest, efficient, the kind of guy who'd file his taxes early. You're watching him inspect a grain shipment, his calm radiating like a cool breeze. But the other governors, they're glaring, their whispers sharp as daggers. You're getting a bad vibe. Here's the strange event. Daniel's so trustworthy that Darius plans to promote him over the entire kingdom, sparking a conspiracy. You're eavesdropping as the other governors huddle, their robes swishing, plotting to take him down. They can't find dirt. No bribes, no scandals, nada. So, they zero in on his faith, his daily prayers to God. You're shaking your head, thinking, really? That's your angle, but it's clever. They know Daniel's devotion is non-negotiable, like trying to get a cat to skip a nap. They're cooking up a trap, and you're nervous for him. A quirky tidbit. Persian kings were obsessed with loyalty tests, sometimes demanding officials swear allegiance via bizarre rituals, like kissing the king's feet. You imagine Daniel politely dodging that, muttering, "God's my only oath." Scholars still argue whether Darius was a historical figure or a stand-in for another ruler. Some say he's a composite. Others swear he's real. Either way, you're watching him fall for the governor's flattery. They pitch a decree for 30 days. No one prays to any god or man except Darius, or their lion food. You're cringing bad call, buddy. Darius signs it, probably thinking it's a unity stunt, like a team-building exercise gone wrong. You're trailing Daniel as he hears the news, his face unreadable. The city's alive with gossip merchants, priests, even a guy selling questionable lion-proof amulets are talking about the decree. You're wondering what Daniel will do. Will he hide? Go underground? You follow him to his house, where he climbs to his upper room, windows open toward Jerusalem. He kneels, praying to God. Same as always, you're floored. His trust is like a rock, unmoved by decrees or danger. The governors are lurking, spying like nosy neighbors. You're tense, knowing they've got him now. Daniel's not whispering his prayers. He's loud, defiant, but not angry, just faithful. You're remembering the furnace, the handwriting, all those times God showed up. Will he again? The sun setting, casting long shadows, and you're feeling the weight of what's coming. Daniel's enemies are smirking, their traps snapping shut. You're walking away, the city's noise fading, ready to see how this plays out in Darius's court. You're in the shadows of Babylon's administrative quarter, where clay tablets pile high and scribes scribble like they're racing a deadline. The air's thick with ink and resentment, and you're watching a plot against Daniel tighten like a noose. The jealous governors, their egos bruised by Daniel's rise, are whispering in corners, their robes swishing as they scheme. You're close enough to catch their smug grins. They've got a plan to bury Daniel, and it's not with paperwork. Darius's decree, banning prayer to anyone but him for 30 days, is their weapon. And Daniel's faith is the target. You're nervous, but you're hooked, wondering how this quiet exile keeps outsmarting empires. The governors know Daniel's routine 3 times a day. He prays to God, windows open, no stealth. You're picturing them staking out his house like amateur detectives, probably tripping over their own sandals. They've seen him kneel, heard his prayers drift toward Jerusalem, and now they're giddy, thinking they've caught him red-handed. You're shaking your head. These guys are betting on a lion's den to solve their jealousy problem. It's bold, but you're sensing they've underestimated Daniel's God, just like Nebuchadnezzar and Belshazzar did. Here's the strange event. The governors frame Daniel's prayers as treason, twisting his devotion into a crime against Darius. You're watching them march to the palace, their complaint polished like a lawyer's pitch. They remind Darius of his decree, playing innocent. Oh, great king. Didn't you say lion food for lawbreakers, Darius? Caught in his own ego. Can't back down. Persian laws are unchangeable, like a bad tattoo. You're cringing as they name Daniel, their voices dripping with fake regret. The king's face falls. He likes Daniel, trusts him, but his hands are tied. A quirky tidbit. Persian bureaucracy was so rigid that decrees were sealed with the king's ring, making them irreversible, even if the king regretted it. You imagine Darius staring at his ring like it's cursed, muttering, "Why didn't I read the fine print?" Scholars still argue whether this unchangeable law was a real Persian thing or a story device to amp up the drama. Either way, it's a legal trap that's got Daniel in its jaws. You're following the governors as they push their case, their confidence sky high. You're in the throne room now, the air heavy with tension. Darius is pacing, his robe dragging, while the governors lean in, pressing him to act. You're catching glimpses of their smugness. They think they've won. Daniel's not here yet, but you know he's still praying, probably finishing his 3rd session of the day. You're marveling at his nerve, his trust in God like a lighthouse in a storm. The king's voice cracks as he orders Daniel's arrest. His regret obvious but useless. You're thinking, buddy, you signed the dumb decree, own it. The governors slink off, probably planning a celebratory kebab party, while you trail the guards to Daniel's house. They knock, loud and official, and you're there as Daniel opens the door. Calm as ever, no running, no begging, just a nod, like he's been expecting this. You're walking with him through Babylon streets, the sunset painting the ziggurats gold. People whisper, some mocking, others awed. You're remembering the furnace. The handwriting God's track record is solid, but a lion's den. That's next level. The palace looms ahead, and you're bracing for what's coming. Daniel's quiet faith pulling you along. You're walking through Babylon's torchlit streets, the night air cool against your skin. As Daniel's escorted to the palace under guard, the city hums with gossip. Merchants pause mid-haggle, and a stray dog barks like it knows something's up. Daniel, hands bound, moves with a calm that's almost unnerving, his eyes fixed ahead, as if he's seeing something beyond the stone walls. You're right beside him, heart thumping, catching the glint of spear tips in the moonlight. The governor's trap has sprung, and Darius's decree, no prayers but to him, or face the lions, is about to test Daniel's faith in God like never before. You're wondering if he's as serene as he looks, or if he's just that good at faking it. The palace gates creak open, and you're ushered into a courtyard buzzing with tension. Darius is there, his face a mix of regret and frustration, like a guy who just realized he's locked his keys in the chariot. The governors hover nearby, their fake concern as convincing as a street vendor's genuine gold. They're pushing for swift justice, reminding Darius of his unchangeable law. You're rolling your eyes. These guys are like vultures circling a picnic. Daniel stands before the king, silent but steady, his trust in God. A quiet hum you can almost feel. Here's the strange event. Daniel openly admits to praying to God, defying the decree, yet shows no fear of the consequences. You're watching him face Darius, his voice clear, not defiant, but honest. I serve my God as I always have. It's not a middle finger to the king. It's a statement of who he is. The governors pounce, demanding the lion's den, but Darius hesitates, searching Daniel's face for, what a loophole, a miracle you're holding your breath. Sensing the king's trapped by his own pride, just like Nebuchadnezzar with his tree. A quirky tidbit, Persian lion pits were real, often used for executions or as royal menageries, and some say the lions were starved to make them extra cranky. You're picturing a zookeeper muttering, sorry, fluffy, no kibble till after the prisoner. Scholars still argue whether Daniel's prayer was a political protest or pure devotion. Some say he was flexing faith. Others see a subtle jab at Darius's ego. Either way, you're watching the king squirm, clearly fond of Daniel, but stuck in his own legal web. Darius tries to stall, pacing, muttering about appeals. But the governors are relentless, their voices sharp as flint. You're catching their glee. They think they've finally outplayed the exile, who's been outshining them. The king's shoulders slump. He orders the sentence, his voice low, almost a whisper. Take him to the den. You're trailing Daniel now. The guards leading him to a stone pit on the palace grounds. The crowd's thin, just officials and a few gawkers. Their whispers like rustling leaves. You're peering into the den, its dark mouth yawning, the faint growl of lions echoing below. Daniel's lowered in, his robes catching on the rough stone. You're tensing, expecting a flinch, but he's still calm, like he's heading to a nap, not a mauling. Darius lingers, his face tight, and calls down, "May your God save you." You're surprised. Does the king believe it's possible? The stones rolled over the entrance, sealed with Darius's ring. You're standing in the quiet, the stars cold above, wondering if God's about to pull another furnace-level save. The governors slink off, smug, but you're sticking around, drawn to Daniel's unshakable trust. You're standing in the dim glow of Babylon's palace courtyard, the night air heavy with the scent of damp stone and distant jasmine. The lion's den is sealed, its stone cover locked in place by Darius's signet ring. A grim finality settling over the scene. Daniel's down there, somewhere in the dark, with only his faith and a few hungry lions for company. You're straining to hear anything roars, shouts, anything, but it's eerily quiet, like the city's holding its breath. The governors, their smug faces barely lit by torchlight, are already strutting off, probably planning how to spin this at the next council meeting. You're staying put, your eyes on Darius, who's lingering, his silhouette tense against the flickering flames. The king's a wreck, his usual swagger gone. You're catching his muttered words, something about Daniel's God. A plea, or maybe a bet with himself. He's not heading to his plush bed. He's pacing, robe dragging, as guards usher him back to the palace. You're following, slipping through corridors where servants scurry, their whispers trailing like smoke. The governor's trap worked, but you're sensing cracks in their victory. Daniel's faith remembered the lentils, the furnace. The handwriting has a way of rewriting the story. You're curious, maybe a little hopeful, about what's happening in that pit. Here's the strange event. Darius, bound by his own law, orders Daniel's arrest but clings to hope that God will intervene. You're watching him dismiss his advisors, his voice sharp, then retreat to his chambers alone. He's not eating, not sleeping, just pacing, maybe praying in his own way. It's Wild, a Persian king, raised on Ahura Mazda and royal infallibility, banking on a Hebrew exile's deity. You're picturing him staring out his window, the Euphrates glinting under the moon, wrestling with the idea that God might outrank his throne. A quirky tidbit: Persian kings often kept musicians on call to soothe their nerves. But Darius bans them tonight, his silence louder than any lyre. You imagine a lute player sulking, muttering, "Guess I'll practice my scales." Scholars still argue whether Darius's faith in God was genuine or just desperation. Some say he's hedging bets. Others see a spark of belief. Either way, you're trailing him as he paces, his sandals slapping the marble, his mind clearly in the den with Daniel. You're slipping back to the courtyard now. The guards posted but distracted, swapping stories about a merchant's runaway camel. The den's stone looms like a silent judge, and you're imagining Daniel below, kneeling, maybe, or just sitting, his prayers a steady hum against the lion's growls. You're half expecting a divine light show, like the furnace's fourth man, but it's just darkness and quiet. You're remembering Nebuchadnezzar's madness, how God humbled him in the fields. This feels different, not a king's pride, but a man's trust, tested in the jaws of beasts. The night drags, stars shifting overhead. You're back with Darius, his chamber lit by a single lamp. He's slumped on a couch, eyes red, muttering Daniel's name. You're feeling the weight of his regret. Signing that decree was like betting against a stacked deck. The city's asleep, but you're wide awake, tied to Daniel's fate. Is he alive? Is God showing up? You're leaning toward hope, but the lions are real. Their hunger no joke. Dawn's coming, and you're ready to see what it reveals. The tension pulling you toward the den's edge. You're crouched in the pre-dawn chill of Babylon's palace courtyard, the air sharp with the promise of morning. The lion's den looms nearby, its sealed stone a silent taunt, holding Daniel's fate like a locked box. You're straining to hear anything from below. Growls, movement, a miracle, but it's just the rustle of palm fronds and the distant clink of a guard's armor. Darius hasn't slept. You're picturing him in his chamber, pacing grooves into the marble, his regret heavier than his crown. The governors, probably snoring in their villas, think they've won, but you're not so sure. Daniel's track record lentils, furnaces, handwriting has you betting on God showing up again. You're tense, waiting for the sun to spill over the horizon and crack this story open. The first rays hit, painting the courtyard gold, and you're trailing Darius as he bursts from the palace, robe askew, guards scrambling to keep up. His face is raw, eyes wild, like a man who spent the night wrestling ghosts. You're right behind him, heart pounding, as he beelines for the den. The guards snap to attention, their spears glinting. But Darius waves them off, his voice hoarse. Open it. Now you're holding your breath as they roll the stone back, the grind of rock on rock echoing like a drum roll. You're peering into the dark, half expecting the worst. Here's the strange event. Daniel's cast into a den of starving lions. Yet God seals their mouths, leaving him untouched. You're imagining him down there, maybe sitting cross-legged, lions sprawled like lazy house cats, his prayers a soft hum. It's not just survival, it's a divine shutdown of nature's rules. Like the furnace's fourth man on steroids, Darius leans over the pit, shouting, "Daniel, servant of the living God, has your God saved you?" You're stunned by the king's hope, his words a mix of faith and desperation. Then, Daniel's voice rises, clear and calm. "O king, live forever. My God sent his angel, and I'm fine." A quirky tidbit, Persian lion dens sometimes doubled as royal zoos, with keepers tossing in meat to keep the beasts entertained. You're picturing a zookeeper grumbling, "These lions better earn their keep tonight." Scholars still argue whether the angel was a physical being or a metaphor for God's power, some lean literal, others symbolic. But you're just marveling at Daniel's chill. You're watching Darius' face light up, his relief so raw, you almost cheer. He orders Daniel hauled out, and you're craning to see him emerge, robes dusty but intact, not a scratch on him. You're there as Daniel steps into the light, blinking, his calm unshaken. The crowd guards, servants, a few early rising nobles gasps, their whispers spreading like wildfire. You're grinning, remembering Nebuchadnezzar's jaw drop at the furnace. Darius is practically hugging Daniel, his voice cracking with gratitude. You're catching the guards' wide eyes. They've seen executions before, but this is next level. The lions, still below, yawn like they missed the memo on mauling. You're feeling it. Daniel's trust in God isn't just personal, it's rewriting the room. The king's mood shifts, his relief hardening to anger. You're sensing what's coming for the governors, their smug victory about to backfire spectacularly. Daniel dusts off his robes, unfazed. While you're replaying his words, "God sent his angel," you're wondering what that looked like. Golden glow, winged figure, or just a vibe. The courtyard's alive now, the city waking. And you're ready to see how Darius handles the conspirators. Daniel's faith, quiet as ever, is louder than any lion's roar. You're standing in Babylon's sun-warmed courtyard, the lion's den now an open gash in the earth, its stone cover rolled aside. Daniel's just climbed out, unscathed, his robes dusty, but as calm, as steady as ever. You're catching your breath, still reeling from his voice, echoing up from the pit, proclaiming God's angel shut the lions' mouths. The crowd guards, servants, A few stunned nobles is buzzing, their whispers like bees in a hive. Darius, his face a mix of relief and fury, is gripping Daniel's shoulder, muttering thanks to a god he barely knows. You're grinning, thinking back to the furnace, the tree, the handwriting Daniel's faith keeps pulling off the impossible. But the air's shifting, the king's eyes are narrowing, and you're sensing the governor's smug victory is about to crash. Darius is done playing nice. You're watching him turn, his robe swirling, as he barks orders to the guards, the governors, who thought they'd sleep easy with Daniel gone, are about to get a wake-up call. You're trailing the king as he storms through the palace, his sandals slapping the tiles, his anger a heat wave you can feel. The courtyard still humming someone's joking that the lions must have been on a vegan kick. But you're focused on Darius. He's not just saving Daniel, he's rewriting the script, and the conspirators are in for a rude surprise. Here's the strange event. Darius, a Persian king bound by unchangeable laws, flips the script by turning the governor's trap against them. You're picturing the moment he realizes he can't undo the decree, but can enforce it fairly. He orders the governors and their families rounded up. No trial, no debate. It's harsh, but you're seeing the logic they wanted the lion's den to be the ultimate punishment. So they're about to test it themselves. You're tensing, knowing this isn't a feel-good moment, but a raw display of justice in a cutthroat empire. A quirky tidbit: Persian kings often extended punishments to families to deter rebellion. A grim custom that makes modern HR policies look cuddly. You're imagining a governor's wife yelling, "You said this was a sure thing," as they're dragged to the den. Scholars still argue whether this mass punishment was historical or a storytelling flourish. Some say it's exaggerated. Others see it as standard Persian flexing. Either way, you're watching the guards haul the conspirators in, their smugness gone, faces pale as the moon. You're back at the den now, the crowd thicker, the air heavy with dread. The governors, those same guys who spied on Daniel's prayers, are pleading, their voices shrill. But Darius is stone cold. You're catching their panic, their realization that the lions aren't on a divine timeout this time. The stones rolled back, and you're peering into the pit, the lion's eyes glinting, their growls low and hungry. The conspirators are shoved in, and you're wincing as the sound snarls. Screams cut through the morning. It's over fast. The lions proving they're not picky eaters. You're shaken, but you're getting the message God protected Daniel. But the den's no joke. The crowd's silent, the reality sinking in. You're glancing at Daniel, standing apart, his face unreadable, not gloating. Just there, Darius, his anger spent, looks older, his crown heavier. You're remembering his sleepless night, his hope in Daniel's God. The den's sealed again, but the story's not over. You're walking away, the city waking around you, merchants shouting, carts creaking. Daniel's faith, quiet as a whisper, just turned a king's heart and a court's power upside down. You're ready to see what he does next. The morning sun warm on your back. You're lingering in Babylon's palace courtyard, the lion's den, now a sealed scar in the earth. Its grim work done. The morning sun climbs higher, casting long shadows, and the crowd's thinning nobles muttering, guards shuffling off, the air still sharp with the echo of the governor's fate. Daniel stands nearby, his robes catching the breeze, his calm unshaken despite the chaos he's just survived. You're marveling at him. This exile who's outlasted conspiracies and lions, his trust in God like a compass that never wavers, Darius. His face etched with exhaustion and awe, is issuing orders, his voice carrying a new weight. You're sensing a shift. The king's not just ruling, he's rethinking everything, and Daniel's at the heart of it. The king's next move is bold. You're watching him summon scribes, their styluses poised over clay tablets, as he dictates a decree to the entire empire. You're close enough to hear his words, his tone firm, but tinged with something like reverence. He's not doubling down on his own glory. Like that prayer band flop, remember that he's proclaiming Daniel's God as the real deal, the living God who saves. You're raising an eyebrow, impressed. A Persian king, raised on fire altars and royal ego, is telling his people to honor a Hebrew's deity. You're thinking, Daniel, you've got some serious pull. Here's the strange event. Darius issues a decree commanding all his subjects to fear and reverence Daniel's God. A stark pivot from his earlier pray to me blunder. You're picturing couriers racing across the empire Persia, media, Babylon spreading the word. The guy in the lion's den walked out clean. So respect his God. It's not just a PR stunt. It's a royal admission that God outranks the throne. You're feeling the rippled temples to Marduk might still stand, but Daniel's faith just got a king's cosign, and that's no small thing. A quirky tidbit Persian decrees were often carved into rock faces, like ancient billboards, to flex royal authority. You're imagining a mason chiseling Daniel's God rules into a cliff, muttering, "Hope this doesn't jinx us." Scholars still argue whether Darius's decree was a genuine conversion or a political move to unify a shaky empire. Some say he's a believer. Others call it damage control. Either way, you're watching scribes seal the tablets, their work destined for every corner of the realm. You're trailing Daniel as he leaves the courtyard, the king's praise still ringing. He's not strutting guys too humble for that, but you're catching the glances from passers-by. A mix of awe and curiosity. The city's alive, markets buzzing, a kid chasing a runaway goat. You're replaying the den lions yawning, angel on duty, Daniel's chill prayers. It's wild how his faith keeps flipping the script. from lentil diets to lion naps. Darius heads back to the palace, his stride lighter, like he's offloaded some royal baggage. You're wondering how this decree will land. Will priests grumble? Will people listen? The day's warming up, and you're walking with Daniel toward his quarters, the Euphrates glinting nearby. He's quiet, probably praying in his head, his routine unbroken by dens or decrees. You're starting to get it. His trust in God isn't just for crises, it's his default. Like breathing, the empire's shifting, but Daniel's steady, his story far from over. You're curious about what's next visions, maybe, or more court drama. The sun's high, the city's pulse steady, and you're ready to follow him into whatever comes. His faith, a soft hum in the morning light. You're strolling through Babylon's quieter streets, the midday sun baking the clay walls. As Daniel heads to his quarters after the lion's den drama, the city's pulse is steady vendors hawk figs. Kids chase stray dogs, but you're tuned to Daniel. His steps measured, his face thoughtful. He's just walked out of a pit of lions, got a king's decree praising his God, and yet he's not basking in the glow. You're catching a new weight in his eyes, like he's sensing something bigger on the horizon. The empire's humming under Darius's rule, but you're wondering what's next for this exile whose faith keeps rewriting history. Spoiler, it's not more court gossip, it's visions that'll make your head spin. Daniel's not done with God's messages. You're picturing him in his upper room, windows open toward Jerusalem, kneeling as usual, but now his prayers are pulling in something wild, dreams and visions that go way beyond Babylon's ziggurats. You're slipping into his world, the air thick with incense and expectation, as he starts seeing things that aren't just about kings or lions. It's like God's handing him a cosmic map, and you're along for the ride, trying to keep up. The streets fade, and you're in his head, where the future's unfolding in vivid, freaky detail. Here's the strange event. Daniel receives a vision of 4 beasts rising from a stormy sea, each weirder than the last, symbolizing future empires. You're visualizing it: a lion with eagle wings, a bear chomping bones, a leopard with 4 heads, and a monster with iron teeth and 10 horns. It's like a divine sci-fi flick, and Daniel's the only one with the script. He's not decoding a king's dream this time. He's seeing God's plan for ages to come, and it's both epic and unsettling. You're gripping the edge of your seat, or maybe your sandal. As the images roll, a quirky tidbit: Babylonian priests used animal omens, like reading a goat's liver, to predict the future. But Daniel's vision skipped the gore for straight-up divine cinema. You're picturing a priest side-eyeing Daniel, muttering, "What's wrong with a good liver?" Scholars still argue whether these beasts match real empires: Babylon, Persia, Greece, Rome, or something symbolic. Some say it's history, others see apocalypse. Either way, you're watching Daniel wrestle with the images, his pen scratching papyrus, capturing every claw and horn. You're there as he processes this, his room dim, the Euphrates glinting outside. The lion's den feels like yesterday's news compared to this. You're remembering his calm in the pit, his trust in God unshaken. Now, that trust is holding him steady as he stares into a future of clashing kingdoms. The beasts aren't just animals. They're power, chaos, empires rising and falling. You're feeling the weight. Daniel's not just a court advisor anymore. He's a prophet, carrying truths bigger than Babylon's walls. His prayers keep him grounded. But you're wondering how he sleeps after seeing that 10-horned monster. The city's noise creeps back, merchants shouting, a cartwheel creaking. You're stepping out with Daniel, his face still heavy with the vision's aftershock. He's not spilling this to the court. It's between him and God for now. You're replaying the lion's den, Darius's decree. God's been loud lately. These beasts, though they're a new level, a glimpse of time unspooling. You're curious what Daniel'll see next. More creatures, maybe angels. The sun's dipping, casting long shadows, and you're ready to follow him into the next vision. His faith a steady hum against the empire's roar. You're in Daniel's quiet room, the evening light slanting through open windows, carrying the faint murmur of Babylon's markets. The Euphrates glints outside, but you're focused on Daniel, kneeling in prayer, his face etched with the weight of his latest vision, those 4 beasts, all claws and horns, spelling out empires yet to come. You're still reeling from the imagery, like you've binged a fantasy series with no pause button. Daniel's not just an exile or a lion tamer anymore. He's God's prophet, catching glimpses of a future that's equal parts awe and dread. You're sitting close, the air heavy with papyrus and purpose. As he processes what's next, his faith, that steady pulse, remember the lentils. The den is holding him, and you're along for the ride. The vision's not done with him. You're picturing Daniel's eyes glaze, his breath slowing, as God unrolls more of the cosmic script. The beasts fade, and now he's seeing a throne room, not Darius's marble setup, but something eternal, blazing with fire. You're there, in his mind's eye, where the air crackles with holy weight. It's not Babylon's incense-soaked pomp. It's raw, divine, like staring into the sun without blinking. You're tensing, sensing this is bigger than the lion's den or Nebuchadnezzar's tree. It's God's own courtroom, and Daniel's got a front row seat. Here's the strange event Daniel sees, the Ancient of Days. God himself on a fiery throne, judging the beasts and their kingdoms. You're visualizing it: white robes, hair like wool, flames rolling from the throne like a celestial wildfire. Thousands of angels serve him, and books are opened, tallying the deeds of empires, you're chilled, not from fear, but from the sheer scale. God's not just saving Daniel, he's ruling time itself. The 10-horned beast, that final monster, is slain, its power crushed. You're nodding, feeling the justice, the order. After the chaos of claws and crowns, a quirky tidbit, Babylonian art loved depicting gods on thrones, often with tame lions at their feet. But Daniel's vision flips that God's throne needs no props, just fire and truth. You're picturing a local artist scratching his head, muttering, "How do I sculpt?" That scholars still argue whether the Ancient of Days is a literal figure or a poetic stand-in for God's eternity, some lean mystical, others metaphorical. But you're just soaking in the blaze. Daniel's scribbling it down, his hand steady despite the vision's intensity. You're back in his room, the night deepening, a stray breeze rustling his scrolls. He's not rattled, but you're sensing the toll. This isn't a one-off dream like Nebuchadnezzar's statue. It's a divine download that's rewriting his world. You're remembering his calm in the den, lions snoring at his feet. That trust in God is what's keeping him grounded now, as he wrestles with a throne that burns away empires. You're wondering what's next, more beasts, maybe a hero. The vision's got layers, and Daniel's not done peeling them back. Outside, Babylon's winding down merchants packing up, a drunk singing off key. You're stepping out with Daniel, his prayers still echoing in your head. He's not rushing to tell Darius, this is too big for court chatter. You're replaying the fiery throne, the opened books, feeling the weight of a God who sees every move. Daniel's faith, quiet as ever, is carrying him through visions that'd make most folks hide under their bed. You're ready for the next piece of this cosmic puzzle. The city's hum fading as the stars take over. You're back in Niall's dimly lit room, the night air soft through open windows, carrying the faint ripple of the Euphrates. A single oil lamp flickers, casting shadows on papyrus scrolls strewn across the table. Daniel's hunched over, his face tight with focus, still grappling with the vision of the Ancient of Days God's fiery throne. The books of judgment, the beast's end. You're sitting close, feeling the weight of it, like you've just seen the universe's endgame. His faith, remember the den. The furnace is a quiet anchor, but these visions are pushing even him into deeper waters. You're hooked, ready for the next frame in God's cosmic reel. And Daniel's eyes say, it's coming. The scene shifts in his mind, and you're pulled back into the vision. The throne room still blazing, but the focus narrowing. The beasts are gone, their chaos judged. And now, something new steps into the light. You're squinting, trying to keep up, as a figure approaches the Ancient of Days, not an angel, not a king, but someone divine, human, yet more. The air hums with power, and you're feeling it in your bones. This is big, bigger than Babylon's ziggurats or Darius's crown. Daniel's breath catches, his pen poised. As the vision unfolds like a star breaking through clouds, here's the strange event. Daniel sees the Son of Man, a divine figure given eternal dominion by the Ancient of Days, ruling a kingdom that never fades. You're picturing it, clouds swirling, the figure radiant, handed a scepter that outshines every empire from lion to iron beast. It's not just a king, it's God's chosen, tying the vision's chaos to a promise of order. You're awed, sensing the Son of Man is more than a symbol. He's hope, power. The end of the story. Daniel's been chasing. You're leaning in, wanting to know more, but the vision's dense, like a puzzle with half the pieces glowing. A quirky tidbit. Babylonian myths had gods like Marduk slaying chaos monsters. But Daniel's Son of Man doesn't fight. He's given victory by God's decree. No sword needed. You're imagining a local priest scoffing. What's a king without a battle? Scholars still argue whether the Son of Man is a person, some say Messiah. Others, an angelic stand-in or a collective, like Israel itself. Either way, you're watching Daniel wrestle with it, his faith stretching to hold this promise of a kingdom that outlasts Persia's pomp. You're back in the room. The lamp's flame steady, mirroring Daniel's resolve. He's jotting notes, his hand slow, like he's afraid to miss a detail. You're replaying the vision beasts, throne. Now this Son of Man, it's a lot, even for a guy who's faced lions. You're remembering his calm in the den, his trust in God like a river that never runs dry. That trust is what's carrying him now, through images that'd make most folks swear off late-night lentils. You're wondering how he processes this. Does he see the Son of Man's face? Is it clear or a shadow? Outside, Babylon's asleep, the stars sharp against the dark. You're stepping out with Daniel, his scrolls tucked away, his prayers a soft hum. He's not rushing to share this with Darius, too vast, too sacred for court. You're feeling the vision's pull, the Son of Man's kingdom, a light beyond the empire's noise. The city's quiet, a stray cat slinking past. And you're ready for whatever Daniel sees next. Angels, maybe, or more cryptic clues. His faith, steady as ever, is your guide, the night wrapping you both in its gentle hush. You're settled in Daniel's modest room, the night deep and still. The only sound, the faint scratch of his pen on papyrus. Babylon's asleep outside, its markets quiet. The Euphrates a soft murmur beyond the walls. You're watching Daniel, his face lit by a flickering lamp. As he pores over his visions, the beasts, the Ancient of Days, the Son of Man, his eyes are heavy, not from exhaustion, but from the weight of what God's showing him. You're feeling it too, like you've been handed a map to the end of time, and it's both thrilling and dizzying. His faith, remember, the den's lions, the furnace's glow, is a steady pulse, and you're leaning in, ready for the next piece of this divine puzzle. The air shifts, and you're pulled into Daniel's mind, where the visions keep unspooling. The throne room fades, and now an angel Gabriel, all radiance and purpose, steps into the frame. You're blinking, trying to keep up. As he speaks to Daniel, his voice clear but loaded with mystery. It's not a casual chat. Gabriel's here to unpack the beasts and the Son of Man, tying loose ends that still feel like knots. You're picturing Daniel, knees weak but heart firm, listening as heaven explains Earth's future. You're hooked. The lamps glow, a faint echo of the angel's light. Here's the strange event. Gabriel appears to Daniel, interpreting the four beasts as kingdoms and hinting at the Son of Man's eternal reign. You're seeing it. Gabriel gesturing to the lion, Babylon, bear Persia, leopard Greece, and that iron-toothed monster, something fiercer, maybe Rome. He's connecting dots, saying the Son of Man's kingdom will crush them all, lasting forever. You're awed, feeling the sweep of history. In a single breath, empires fall. But God's plan stands. It's not just prophecy, it's a promise. And Daniel's soaking it in. His trust in God, the only thing keeping him steady. A quirky tidbit Babylonian astrologers claim to talk to spirits, but their visions often came from opium or bad fish. You're picturing one muttering, "My spirit guide says, buy more goats," while Daniel's chatting with an actual angel. Scholars still argue whether Gabriel's visit was a dream or a waking encounter. Some say it's symbolic. Others insist it's literal. But you're just marveling at Daniel's calm. You're watching him nod, his pen racing to capture Gabriel's words, each one a thread in a tapestry of time. You're back in the room, the lamp's flame wavering, mirroring the flicker of Daniel's awe. He's not freaking out, but you're sensing the stakes. Gabriel's message isn't just about now. It's about centuries, maybe millennia. You're replaying the beasts, the throne, the Son of Man, and now this angelic Q&A. It's a lot. Even for a guy who stared down lions. You're remembering his prayers in the den, his faith like a rock. That trust is what's holding him now. As he wrestles with a future where empires crumble, but God's kingdom shines. The night's deep, stray breeze rustling the scrolls. You're stepping outside with Daniel. His work paused, his prayers a soft hum. He's not running to Darius with this too vast, too holy for court gossip. You're feeling Gabriel's words linger. The Son of Man's reign, a light beyond Babylon's noise. The stars are sharp, the city hushed, and you're ready for Daniel's next vision. Maybe more angels. Or something even wilder. His faith, quiet as a whisper, is your anchor, guiding you through the dark toward whatever God reveals next. You're back in Daniel's small room, the air thick with the scent of ink and old papyrus. The night outside Babylon's walls, deep and star-strewn. The lamp's glow dances on Daniel's face, his eyes distant, still haunted by Gabriel's visit and the visions of beasts and the Son of Man. You're sitting close, feeling the weight of his task prophet, not just survivor, carrying God's blueprint for empires yet unborn. His faith, that unshakable thread, think lentils, lions, furnaces is a quiet hum, grounding him as the visions grow stranger. You're hooked, the silence heavy with what's coming, as Daniel's pen hovers, ready for the next divine download. The room fades, and you're pulled into another vision, this one sharp and cryptic. Daniel's seeing a new scene, not the throne room's blaze or the sea's beasts, but a timeline, numbers ticking like a cosmic clock. You're squinting, trying to follow, as Gabriel's voice returns, calm but dense, unpacking a prophecy called the 70 weeks. It's not weeks like your laundry schedule, it's years, centuries, a map of God's plan for Israel and beyond. You're feeling the scale, like staring at a galaxy through a keyhole. And Daniel's right there, his trust in God, the only thing keeping him from vertigo. Here's the strange event. Gabriel reveals the 70 weeks prophecy, a divine timeline for Jerusalem's restoration, the Messiah's coming, and a final reckoning. You're picturing it, 70 sets of 7 years, starting with a decree to rebuild Jerusalem, leading to an anointed one, then trouble, desolation. It's dense, like a math problem from heaven. And Daniel's scribbling, his brow furrowed. You're awed, sensing this isn't just about Persia or Greece, it's God's endgame, tying the Son of Man to a future that's both hope and storm. You're leaning in, wanting clarity, but it's a divine riddle, a quirky tidbit. Babylonian priests loved number games, using 60-based math for star charts. But Daniel's 70 weeks is no stargazing trick. It's God's calendar, precise yet elusive. You're imagining a local mystic muttering, 70, why not 60 stars? Hate odd numbers. Scholars still argue whether the weeks pinpoint exact dates. Some map it to Persian kings or Jesus. Others call it symbolic. But you're just watching Daniel grapple, his faith holding firm. You're in his room, the lamp steady as he writes, each number a weight he carries for God. You're feeling the vision's pull, the 70 weeks, like a thread from Jerusalem's ruins to a distant cross or temple. You're remembering the den, Daniel's prayers echoing as lions slept. That trust is what's steadying him now, as he navigates numbers that span empires. You're wondering how he sleeps after this. Does he dream of weeks ticking down? The prophecy's not for Darius's court. It's too vast, too sacred. You're picturing Daniel pausing, staring at the Euphrates' glint, his prayers a soft anchor against the vision's tide. The city's hushed, a stray dog's bark the only sound. You're stepping out with Daniel, his scrolls tucked away, his face calm but heavy. He's not spilling this to scribes or satraps. It's between him and God. You're replaying Gabriel's words. The 70 weeks a puzzle that's half light, half shadow. The stars burn bright. And you're ready for Daniel's next vision, maybe more timelines, or something wilder. His faith, soft as a whisper, carries you forward, the night wrapping you both in its gentle hush, the future shimmering just out of reach. You're settled in the quiet of Daniel's room, the night air cool through open windows, carrying the faint hum of Babylon's distant life. The lamp's flame steadies, casting a soft glow on scattered scrolls, each inked with visions, beasts, thrones, the Son of Man. 70 weeks. Daniel sits, his face lined with purpose, his eyes tracing the words he's just written. You're close, feeling the weight of his role prophet. Exile, survivor, his faith a quiet fire that's outlasted lions and kings. You're thinking back to the den, the furnace, how God keeps showing up, now, with Gabriel's cryptic timeline still ringing. You're ready for the next layer of Daniel's divine dispatch. The air thick with what's coming. Daniel's not just praying tonight, he's pleading, his heart heavy for Israel, his people still scattered, Jerusalem a ruin. You're picturing him kneeling, his voice low, confessing sins not just his, but a nation's begging God for mercy. It's raw, personal, like a son riding home after years away. You're drawn in, the room fading as his words weave a thread from Babylon's glitter to Jerusalem's dust. His faith remembered the lentils. The handwriting is a steady pulse. But this prayer's different. A cry that's both humble and bold. And you're sensing God's about to answer in a big way. Here's the strange event. Daniel's fervent prayer for Israel's restoration triggers a divine response. With Gabriel returning to confirm God's plan, you're seeing at Daniel's mid-prayer when the angel appears. Wings, or maybe just light, saying, "You're heard. Daniel, your love for your people matters." Gabriel ties the 70 weeks to Israel's redemption, a promise of rebuilding, a Messiah, and trials. You're chilled, not from fear, but from the intimacy God's listening, planning. And Daniel's at the heart of it. It's not just prophecy. It's a love letter to a broken nation. And you're soaking it in. A quirky tidbit Babylonian prayers often involved loud wails or animal sacrifices. But Daniel's quiet confession is all heart. No goats required. You're picturing a local priest scoffing. Where's the drama? No incense. Scholars still argue whether Daniel's prayer was a one-off or a regular ritual. Some say it's a model for repentance. Others, a snapshot of his grief. Either way, you're watching him pour out his soul. The lamp's glow mirroring the fire in his words. Gabriel's presence, a divine nod that God's got this, You're back in the room. The night deep. Daniel's prayer winding down. He's not pacing or panicking. He's still. Trusting God's heard him. You're replaying Gabriel's visit. The 70 weeks now tied to Jerusalem's hope, a city rebuilt, a savior coming. It's a lot, even for a guy who's faced iron-toothed beasts in his head. You're remembering his calm in the den, lions yawning as he prayed. That trust is what's carrying him now. Through prayers that bridge empires and ages. You're wondering what's next, more angels? Or maybe a new vision to test his steady heart. Outside, Babylon silent. The stars a canopy over the sleeping city. You're stepping out with Daniel, his scrolls left behind, his prayers a soft echo. He's not rushing to tell Darius this is too sacred for court. You're feeling the weight of his plea, the promise of redemption shimmering like the Euphrates under moonlight. The night wraps you both, and you're ready for whatever God shows him next, maybe more timelines, or something quieter, deeper. His faith, gentle as a breeze, guides you forward. The future, a whisper in the dark, waiting to unfold. You're walking through Babylon's quiet streets, the dawn just breaking, painting the ziggurats in soft gold. The city's waking merchants unpack. A stray rooster crows off key, but you're focused on Daniel. His steps slow as he heads to his duties. His face carries the weight of last night's prayer, that raw plea for Israel's redemption. And Gabriel's answer about the 70 weeks, you're still processing it. The idea of a Messiah, a rebuilt Jerusalem, all tied to a divine clock. Daniel's faith think den, beasts, furnace keeps him steady. But you're sensing a shift. Persia's now calling the shots, and Daniel's navigating a new empire. His vision's growing sharper, heavier. You're curious, the morning air crisp. As you follow him into what's next, the scene changes as you reach his quarters. Daniel's not at court today. He's alone, scrolls open, his mind on God. You're picturing him by the Euphrates, its waters glinting, when a new vision hits not beasts or thrones, but a glimpse of Persia's rise under Cyrus. The king who's reshaping the world. You're drawn in, the air humming with divine clarity, as Daniel sees a future where Israel's exile might end. It's not all rosy wars loom. Empires clash, but there's hope. A thread of God's plan weaving through the chaos. You're leaning closer, feeling the stakes. His trust in God, a quiet anchor. Here's the strange event. Daniel's vision reveals Cyrus's decree to free the Jews. A pivotal moment that starts the 70 weeks ticking. You're seeing it, a royal edict, sealed with Cyrus' ring, letting exiles return to Jerusalem, rebuild the temple. It's not just politics. It's God moving kings like chess pieces, fulfilling promises Daniel's prayed for. You're awed, picturing families packing, dusty roads filled with hope. all sparked by a vision in an exile's heart. It's a divine flex, showing God's not just above lions, but empires. And Daniel's right in the middle. His faith a bridge between now and then. A quirky tidbit: Persian kings loved grand gestures, like freeing captives to flex their benevolence. But Cyrus's decree was oddly specific, naming Jerusalem's temple. You're imagining a scribe muttering, "Why this tiny city? We've got bigger shrines." Scholars still argue whether Cyrus acted from faith or pragmatism. Some say he honored God. Others call it a power play to win allies. Either way, you're watching Daniel process this, his pen scratching, capturing a future where exile ends. His prayers answered in ways he can't yet see. You're in his room now. The morning light spilling over scrolls, Daniel's face calm but alive with purpose. He's not shouting this vision from the rooftops too vast for Babylon's gossip mill. You're replaying Gabriel's words, the 70 weeks now linked to Cyrus's decree. A countdown to redemption. It's heavy, even for a guy who's faced angelic briefings. You're remembering his den prayers, lions dozing as he trusted God. That faith is what's holding him now. As he sees Persia's rise and Israel's hope, you're wondering how he carries it. Does he dream of Jerusalem's walls, the cities buzzing outside, carts rattling, a vendor yelling about fresh dates? You're stepping out with Daniel, his work calling, but his heart's with the vision. He's not briefing Darius or Cyrus yet. This is God's secret, not court news. You're feeling the promise of return, the 70 weeks ticking like a heartbeat, the sun's climbing, and you're ready for Daniel's next move, maybe more visions, or a quieter moment of trust. His faith, soft as the dawn, pulls you along, the future shimmering in the morning light, just beyond the empire's reach. You're trailing Daniel through Babylon's bustling administrative quarter, the midday sun glinting off polished tiles, the air alive with the clatter of scribes and the tang of fresh clay tablets. He's older now, his steps deliberate, carrying the weight of vision's beasts, thrones, 70 weeks, Cyrus' decree. You're still buzzing from his latest glimpse of Israel's hope, a return from exile sparked by Persia's new king. But the court's a tangle of ambition, and Daniel's faith, remember the den. The furnace is a quiet beacon as he navigates this shifting empire. You're curious, the city's pulse quickening, as you sense his visions aren't done, and something vast is brewing in his heart. Daniel's at his post, overseeing governors, his calm a stark contrast to the bureaucrats' squabbles over taxes and trade routes. You're picturing him pausing, his mind drifting to Jerusalem, when another vision hits not a throne or angel, but a kaleidoscope of wars, kings, and distant strife. You're pulled in, the office fading, as images of clashing armies and scheming rulers unfold, all tied to the 70 weeks promise. It's not just Israel's story, Al. It's the world's. And Daniel's faith in God is the lens that keeps it clear. You're tensing, feeling the scope, as the future unravels like a scroll. Here's the strange event. Daniel sees a vision of future conflicts, with kings of the north and south battling, their schemes threatening the Holy Covenant. You're visualizing it, armies marching, thrones toppling, a vile person rising to defile God's sanctuary, all centuries beyond Babylon's walls. It's a divine newsreel, grim but laced with hope. As God's plan endures, you're awed, sensing the 70 weeks ticking through these wars, pointing to a Messiah who will outshine the chaos. Daniel's scribbling, his trust in God, a steady hand against the vision storm, a quirky tidbit. Persian oracles often predicted wars by watching birds or rolling dice. But Daniel's visions come straight from God. No feathers required. You're picturing a local seer grumbling. Birds are easier than this prophecy nonsense. Scholars still argue whether these kings match historical figures like Seleucids versus Ptolemies or symbolize broader evil. Some say it's pinpoint history, others apocalyptic poetry. Either way, you're watching Daniel wrestle with it. His room dim, the lamps glow a faint echo of the vision's fire. You're in his quarters now, the day winding down, scrolls spread like a battlefield of ink. He's not shaken, but you're feeling the toll. These aren't just dreams. They're God's blueprint for ages, and Daniel's carrying it alone. You're remembering his den prayers, lions silent as he trusted. That faith is what's grounding him now. As he sees wars that'll outlive him, you're wondering how he holds it. Does he picture the vile person sneering? The vision's dense, but hope threads through. The Messiah's promise, a light in the dark. The cities settling outside. A vendor's last call for figs fading. You're stepping out with Daniel, his work done, his heart still with the vision. He's not sharing this with Cyrus's court, too vast, too raw. You're replaying the wars, the covenant's trials, the 70 weeks slow march. The stars are out, sharp against the night, and you're ready for Daniel's next glimpse, maybe more kings, or a quieter truth. His faith, gentle as a breeze, carries you forward, the future a shadow just beyond Persia's reach, whispering of battles and redemption yet to come. You're weaving through Babylon's evening streets, the air cooling as torches flicker to life, casting shadows on mud brick walls. The city hums, merchants pack up. A flute player's tune drifts, but you're fixed on Daniel. His steps slow, his face heavy with the wars and kings he's just seen in vision. Those battles. The vile person defiling God's covenant. The 70 weeks promise they're not just prophecy. They're a weight he carries alone, his faith. That quiet strength, think furnace. Den, handwriting is a steady glow. guiding him through Persia's new rule and visions that stretch beyond empires. You're curious. The night settling as you follow him. Sensing his stories far from over, Daniel's back in his room. The lamp's soft light spilling over scrolls. His prayers a low hum. You're picturing him kneeling, not for visions now, but for strength. His heart still tied to Jerusalem's ruins. The wars he's seen feel distant, yet they're real. A storm brewing past Cyrus's reign. You're drawn in, the room a cocoon, as he turns to his scrolls, maybe seeking clarity in his own words. His faith in God remember the lion sleeping. The angel's glow is what's holding him, and you're ready for the next beat, wondering if it's more battles or something softer, closer to home. Here's the strange event Daniel's final visions unfold. A detailed tapestry of future wars, betrayals, and a kingdom that endures despite evil's rise. You're seeing it, kings of the north and south scheming, armies clashing, a false peace broken by a ruler who bans worship, setting up an abomination in God's temple. It's grim, like a storm cloud over the 70 weeks' hope. But God's promise shines through a resurrection, a final judgment. You're chilled, not from fear, but from the scale Daniel's seeing the end. Where faith wins, his trust keeps him steady, his pen capturing every betrayal and triumph. A quirky tidbit, Persian prophets often read omens in river currents, but Daniel's visions are direct. No ripples needed. You're picturing a local diviner muttering, "Why bother with water when his God just tells him?" Scholars still argue whether these visions pinpoint exact events like Antiochus' temple desecration or paint a broader end times picture. Some say history, others apocalypse. Either way, you're watching Daniel write, his hand slow, the lamp's flame mirroring the fire in his heart as he traces God's plan through centuries of strife. You're feeling the vision's weight, the wars and abominations, a shadow over the Messiah's promise. You're remembering Daniel's den, his calm as lions yawned. That trust is what's anchoring him now, as he sees a world where evil struts, but God prevails. You're wondering how he rests. Does he dream of these kings, or of Jerusalem restored? The vision's not for Cyrus's court. It's too raw, too vast. You're picturing him pausing, staring at the stars through his window. His prayers a bridge to the future he's seen. The night's deep. Babylon's noise, a faint echo dogs bark. A cart creaks. You're stepping out with Daniel, his scrolls tucked away, his face calm, but etched with purpose. He's not sharing this with scribes or satraps, it's God's alone. You're replaying the wars, the resurrection's hope, the 70 weeks ticking, the stars burn bright, and you're ready for Daniel's final chapter, maybe a last vision, or a quiet reflection. His faith, soft as moonlight, pulls you forward. The future, a whisper in the dark, holding both storm and salvation. You're standing in the soft glow of Daniel's room, the night thick outside. Babylon's hum reduced to a distant murmur crickets. A late cart's creak. The lamp flickers, casting shadows on scrolls that hold a lifetime of visions, beasts, thrones, wars, in the 70 weeks promise. Daniel's older now, his hands steady, but his eyes deep with the weight of God's revelations. You're close, feeling his quiet strength. That faith, remember, the den's lions, the furnace's fourth man still burning bright. His final visions of clashing kings and a resurrected hope linger. But tonight, you're sensing a gentler close, a reflection on a life shaped by trust. The air's heavy, and you're ready for his story's last brushstrokes. Daniel's not writing now, he's praying, his voice a soft thread weaving through the stillness. You're picturing him, knees on the floor, facing Jerusalem's distant ruins, his heart full of Israel's past and future. The Persian Empire, under Cyrus, is stable, but Daniel's focus is higher. God's kingdom, the one the Son of Man will rule. You're drawn in, the room a sanctuary, as he reflects on his journey exile. Lions, prophecies, his faith in God, unshaken through decades, is a light you can almost touch, and you're wondering how he'll tie it all together. Here's the strange event. Daniel's final act is a quiet charge from God to seal his visions, preserving them for a future generation. You're seeing it God's voice, maybe through Gabriel, telling him, "Close the scroll. Daniel, these words are for the end." It's not a dramatic finale, no lions or thrones, but a sacred trust his prophecies beasts, weeks. Resurrection will outlive him, guiding those who will face the vile person and beyond. You're moved, sensing the humility of a man who's seen eternity yet accepts his part is done. His faith holds, a calm that outshines Persia's pomp, a quirky tidbit. Persian scribes often buried important texts in clay jars for safekeeping, a bit like ancient time capsules. You're picturing Daniel tucking his scrolls away, muttering, "Hope no one digs this up for a picnic." Scholars still argue whether Daniel sealed his visions literally or symbolically. Some say he hid physical scrolls. Others see it as a metaphor for divine timing. Either way, you're watching him finish his work. The lamps glow soft, his prayers a final offering as he entrusts the future to God. You're feeling the moment's weight, the sealed visions, a bridge from Babylon to a time you can't yet see. You're remembering his den prayers, lion silent, his trust unwavering. That faith is what's carrying him now. As he steps back, letting God's plan unfold without him. You're wondering how he feels relieved, maybe, or wistful. The vision's wars, Messiah, resurrection are for others now, a legacy of hope. You're picturing him rising, his knees creaking, his eyes on the stars beyond the window. Jerusalem, a dream he'll never walk. The city's asleep. The night a velvet wrap. You're stepping out with Daniel. His room left tidy. Scrolls secure. He's not sharing this with Cyrus's court. It's too sacred, too final. You're replaying the sealed visions, the 70 weeks promise, the Son of Man's reign. The stars gleam, and you're ready for Daniel's last breath in the story, a moment to reflect, to rest. His faith, gentle as a sigh, guides you. The future, a light just beyond the horizon, holding redemption's quiet song. You're weaving through Babylon's administrative quarter. The morning sun glinting off glazed tiles. The air sharp with the scent of fresh clay and ambition. The city's alive scribes hustle. A merchant haggles over saffron, but you're focused on Daniel. His steps measured, his face carrying the weight of vision's beasts. Thrones, 70 weeks. Persia's now running the show. Cyrus's banners flapping where Babylonian ones once hung. Daniel, older, gray at the temples, navigates this new empire with the same faith that saw him through lions and furnaces. You're curious, the bustle fading, as you sense his role shifting under a king who might just change everything. Daniel's a governor still, his desk piled with tablets, but his heart's elsewhere, Jerusalem. God's plan, the vision sealed for a future he won't see. You're picturing him pausing, the Euphrates glinting outside, as he reflects on Cyrus, the king his prophecies hinted at. Persia's different, less idol-obsessed, more pragmatic, but it's still an empire, with court intrigues thicker than Babylonian stew. You're trailing him through a corridor, officials nodding, some with envy, others awe. His faith remember the den. The handwriting is a quiet hum, guiding him as he balances duty and divine purpose in a world remade. Here's the strange event. Daniel discerns Cyrus as God's anointed, a pagan king chosen to free Israel. Fulfilling Isaiah's prophecy decades earlier. You're stunned, picturing Daniel connecting the dots. Cyrus's decree to rebuild Jerusalem's temple. The 70 weeks start, all orchestrated by God. It's wild. A Persian conqueror, raised on fire altars, is God's tool. Unaware he's starring in a divine script. You're watching Daniel pray, his gratitude soft but fierce, as exiles prepare to return, their hope a spark after years of ash. It's not just policy, it's God moving empires. And Daniel's faith is the lens that sees it clear. A quirky tidbit: Persian kings kept royal chronicles to track their deeds. But Cyrus's scribes probably didn't note chosen by Hebrew God in the margins. You're imagining a scribe muttering, "Another temple. Can't we fund a nice bridge?" Scholars still argue whether Cyrus knew his role in prophecy. Some say he read Isaiah. Others call it political chess to win Jewish loyalty. Either way, You're seeing Daniel at work, his calm unshaken, as he advises on grain quotas while quietly marveling at God's chessboard, where kings are pawns. You're in a council meeting now. Daniel seated among satraps, their robes swishing, debating trade routes. He's respected but apart, his mind on the exiles packing for Jerusalem. Their songs of Zion, faint but growing. You're replaying the vision's beasts, the Son of Man, Gabriel's timelines. Cyrus's decree feels like a hinge, swinging open the 70 weeks door. You're grinning at the irony. A king who'd scoff at lentils now carries God's plan. Daniel's faith, steady as the Euphrates, keeps him grounded, even as he sees history pivot. You're wondering how he feels. Does he long to join the exiles, or is Babylon his post till the end? The day's warming, the city's noise carts, shouts, a stray goat, fading as you follow Daniel to his quarters. He's not boasting about Cyrus's role. This is God's work, not court gossip. You're feeling the shift. Persia's rise a new chapter. But Daniel's story, his trust, his visions feels timeless. The sun climbs, and you're ready for his final reflection, sensing a legacy forming. His faith a light that'll outshine empires, guiding you to the quiet close of his tale. You're sitting in Daniel's modest room, the night deep. Babylon's clamor softened to a hush cricket's chirp. The Euphrates whispers. A single lamp glows, its light tracing the lines on Daniel's face. Now, etched with years of exile, visions, and unshakable faith, scrolls lie stacked, inked with beasts, thrones, and the 70 weeks, sealed for a future he'll never walk. You're close, feeling his quiet presence, his trust in God. Think furnace. Den, Cyrus's decree, a steady flame that's lit every step from Jerusalem's fall to Persia's rise. His story's closing, and you're here, wrapped in its gentle weight, ready to reflect on a legacy that feels like a lullaby. Daniel's praying, his voice a soft murmur, facing Jerusalem, always Jerusalem. You're picturing him, knees on the worn floor, thanking God for it all, the lentils that defied a king, the lions that slept, the visions that mapped empires. He's old, his hands slower, but his faith is ageless, a river that's carried him through Babylon's glitter and Persia's power. You're drawn in, the room a sanctuary, as he looks back, not with pride, but with wonder at a God who turned an exile into a prophet. His trust, quiet as starlight, is a warmth you're sinking into. The night a perfect frame for his final thoughts. Here's the strange event. Daniel's legacy is sealed not in statues or decrees, but in his quiet trust, inspiring a book that shapes faith across centuries. You're seeing it, his words, once private prayers, now a scroll that'll outlive Persia, Rome, and beyond, guiding Jews through persecution, Christians through trials, It's not a loud triumph. It's a whisper that echoes. His faith in God, a beacon for those facing their own lions. You're moved, picturing generations reading his story by lamplight, finding courage in a man who trusted through the impossible. His life, simple yet vast, is God's final word in this tale. A quirky tidbit: Persian nobles often left inscriptions boasting of conquests, but Daniel's monument is a text no king could claim. You're imagining a courtier sniffing. No gold statue. What kind of legacy is that? Scholars still argue whether Daniel wrote every word of his book or if disciples polished it. Some say he's the sole author. Others see a later hand weaving his story. Either way, you're watching him pray, his heart full, knowing his faith's ripple will reach shores he'll never see, a quiet victory brighter than Babylon's gardens. You're feeling the moment's peace, Daniel's trust a soft tide pulling you deeper. You're remembering the den, his calm as lions dozed, the visions that burned with God's truth. That faith is his gift, not just to Israel, but to you. A reminder that God's near, even in exile. You're wondering how he feels content. Maybe, knowing his work's done, he rises, his shadow long, and you're picturing him gazing at the stars. Jerusalem, a dream he's passed to others. His story's not about him. It's about a God who saves. And you're resting in that truth. The night, a gentle cradle. The city's asleep. Stray breeze stirring the lamp's flame. You're stepping out with Daniel. His room left still. His prayers a final note. He's not for courts or crowds now. His legacy's in the scroll. The faith that held him. You're replaying his life exile. Prophet, friend of God. Its peace wrapping you like a shawl. The stars shine, and you're ready to let his story fade. His trust a light that lingers, guiding you into sleep's embrace. You're drifting now, Babylon's walls dissolving into a soft, starry haze. Daniel's faith wraps you, a warm quilt of trust. His story, a gentle hum that soothes your heart. Picture a quiet meadow, the grass cool, the sky a velvet dome of stars, each one a promise kept. You're not in the den. No kings or visions, just peace. The Euphrates murmur, a distant lullaby. Daniel's life lentils, lions. Sealed scrolls melts into a single truth. God's love endures, steady as the stars. You're safe, held in a trust that outlives empires. Your breath slowing, soft as a breeze. Let the visions fade, they're God's to keep. Feel your heart ease, each pulse a whisper of rest. The night's kind, cradling you like Daniel's prayers. His faith a glow that says, sleep, you're seen, you're enough, close your eyes. Sink into the calm and dream of a kingdom where peace reigns. Its light the only sound.